about how to do this at stthomas.edu/proxy. They're also receiving information throughout this orientation process on how to do this as well. We actually have a handy video for them to watch that shows step-by-step instructions on how to do so. But this is really important. Students should be able to start doing this right now, and especially want to make sure this is completed before that first day of class, because we in our office and other offices on campus want to be able to speak to you as parents and answer your questions, but we also want to make sure that we're properly protecting your students' information. So Proxy allows us to easily do that. Proxy also allows you read-only access to our Murphy Online system, so you can actually log in and view some of your students' information that way too. Nancy, a little bit later, will talk about the authorized user system. That's a little bit separate, or that is separate from Proxy, so it's really good to do both. But Proxy is going to be a really good idea for your students to do as soon as possible. With that, next thing I will talk about would be filing the FAFSA. So my guess would be probably the majority of you watching today have already had your student file a FAFSA. But if you haven't, there is still time. None of the financial aid that students receive that is determined by the FAFSA is time sensitive. So if your student hasn't filed a FAFSA yet, they still have plenty of time. The state of Minnesota does have a deadline 30 days into the term, so you definitely want to make sure you have it in before that. The FAFSA can only ever help your student find additional sources of financial aid. It can never hurt your student from a financial aid point of view. So if your student was offered an academic scholarship, we're not going to reduce that based off of a FAFSA result. We're only going to potentially award additional aid. At the very least, all students will qualify for a federal loan. This federal loan is in the student's name only and has a relatively low interest rate. For 2020-21, that interest rate is 2.75%. Now, the FAFSA itself is based off of 2018 tax information. But what do you do if your family's financial situation has changed since then? For that, we have what's called the special circumstance process. So the federal government allows financial aid offices, including ours at St. Thomas, to make adjustments to the FAFSA that you've submitted to better reflect your current situation. So we know this is especially important with the world in 2020. So a lot of families we know are experiencing job loss or income reduction. So that's a really common special circumstance that we can adjust for. Other things would be change in the household size, if you've had large medical expenses, if you have large expenses for younger sibling, private education, those types of things we can make adjustments for. So the best way to start this process is reach out to our office, whether you know your financial aid counselor. All students do have a personal financial aid counselor that they can contact, or reach out to our office. We'll have contact information later on in the presentation. But let us know and we can start the process. We have a quick application and then we'll collect a little bit of extra documentation just to have all the right information to make those changes. But it can result in additional financial aid sources for students. So I definitely encourage you to do this if your situation has changed. Other financing options that are available. So hopefully if your student has filed a FAFSA, you've heard back from us about their financial aid award. And you might be wondering how you can go about covering that remaining balance that's left after financial aid. One option is the Federal Parent Plus loan. This is available for families that have filed a FAFSA and are eligible for federal financial aid. There is a credit check involved, so you do need to fill out an application with the federal government, but we've got information on our website, and you also can just go to that studentaid.gov website. But this is a loan that's in the parent's name only. It does have a little bit higher interest rate than the student federal loans. You can also see it has a little bit higher of a fee as well, but it can be a really good option for covering those remaining costs, especially if you don't have the funds to pay out of pocket during the school year. This is something that you can take out now and start paying off over time to help cover your students' educational costs. In addition to federal Parent Plus loans, there's also private education loans that are available. So these loans would be in the student's name as the primary borrower, but in almost all situations, a cosigner is going to be required for your student to be approved for this. We have a great list of lenders that you can start with as far as starting your search for a private lender at that website at the bottom of the screen. We can't tell you which lender to go with, but they all have a variety of different loan programs, and there's not one that's best for all students and families. Anyhow, interest rates are going to vary based primarily on the credit history of the cosigner, but they will vary based off of the criteria that each individual lender is looking at. This can take a little bit longer, so I normally suggest if you're going to borrow an additional loan, you want to make sure that you are applying by mid-August, just to make sure that the funds are in place by the time the bill is due in September. So, and the last type of financial aid that I want to talk about before I hand things off to Nancy is student employment. So one thing that is a bit unique to St. Thomas, or a little less common, is that we do allow all students to work on campus. Students typically will work about 10 to 12 hours per week. Minimum wage in St. Paul starting July 1st is $11.50 per hour. So we normally estimate that if a student is working that average amount of hours a week at $11.50, they can earn about $4,000 in the school year. This is the one type of financial aid that your student has the choice of how they receive it. They can have it paid directly to their student bill that Nancy will talk about in a little bit, or they can have it paid to their own bank account. Either way, students are paid bi-weekly or bi-monthly, however you want to say it. So every 2 weeks, it'll be either applied to their bill or to their account. Students aren't placed in a job or guaranteed a job, but the jobs board at stthomas.edu/jobs is a really great resource for students to start searching for jobs and applying for jobs right from that website. And with that, I will hand it over to Nancy to talk about student accounts and e-bills.
Nancy, you're muted. Thank you. Great.
Thank you. During my presentation, I will discuss 5 very important items concerning the business office. I would first like to start out by discussing the billing system. The university bills by semester. Monthly bill notifications are sent to the student's St. Thomas email address. Paper bills are not sent. Bills are generated approximately 3 weeks before the due date. So for instance, for fall, the student will receive an e-bill on August 24th. The first payment due date is September 19th. So that allows you approximately 3 weeks to get that payment in place. Please note that the payment due dates are always on the 19th of each month. This is the first important item. If you also wish to receive a monthly bill notification, your son or daughter must make you an authorized user. Neil did discuss the proxy, which is important for view-only access, but the business office focuses on the authorized user, and a student can make more than one person an authorized user. So this is the second important item. Have your son make you an authorized user. Going back to the first slide. So the authorized user will receive the monthly bills. They'll be able to make a payment online, and they'll be able to discuss the account details with the business office. I always like to use the example of someday your son or daughter may be studying abroad, and they're on a different time zone, or they're climbing Mount Fuji, and the bill needs to be paid. Being an authorized user allows you the access to the bill. You'll know how much to pay, and you'll be able to pay it online. The next slide, I'll illustrate how to become an authorized user. Murphy Online is the main student portal that they log into every day. This is where they can add an authorized user, view the bill, make a payment, etc. So the student will log into Murphy Online, and then they'll click on the e-bill and e-pay system, and off to the right, you can't quite see it, but they'll click on authorized users, and that's where they will enter your name and email address. You'll then receive an email asking for acceptance, and then you can set up your own password so you can get into the payment system. For additional information, you can always visit our Business Office webpage, and that is located at stthomas.edu/businessoffice. The next slide illustrates the payment due dates. The university offers 2 payment plans. This is the third important point. The first payment plan is you can pay your entire semester balance by the first payment due date, which for fall is September 19th. The second payment plan, we do allow students to pay over the course of the semester. So your payment due dates would be September, October, November, and December 19th, always on the 19th. If you choose to pay over the course of the semester, there is a finance charge of 1.1%. This is the cost of extending credit to the student to pay over the semester. It is not a late charge. And all students are automatically set up on the semester-long payment plan. The fourth important point is how to pay, and there are 3 ways to pay. You can pay online. The student can always pay online, or if you're an authorized user, you can pay online. You can pay in person at the business office, or you can mail a paper check to the business office. And our address is located on our business office webpage. The next slide shows a sample billing statement. When the first statement is generated on August 24th, an e-bill notification will be sent to all the students to their St. Thomas email address. It will also be sent to the email address of all the authorized users. So if you're an authorized user, you can go to our business office webpage and click on make a payment or view the bill, and you'll be able to see this statement. So the statement shows all of the current charges, and below that it shows all the current payments, which would be in the form of grants, scholarships. And then below that, please note that there's something called pending financial aid, and that would be federal loans and other loans that haven't posted to the account yet because the student has not started classes yet. So to make a payment, oh, you can't quite see it because maybe our faces are in the way, but in the upper right-hand corner, it will show all the student charges less the current payments will equal a dollar amount. You can make that total payment less any pending financial aid, make that by the first payment due date for the fall. That would be September 19th, and you would avoid finance charges. If you choose to pay over the course of the semester, in the upper right-hand corner, there is the minimum payment due, and you can pay that by September 19th. And then each month you would pay the minimum payment due. The next slide discusses credit balances and e-refunds. Credit balances occur on a student account when there's more financial aid than there are charges. This can happen, for example, when a student takes out a loan that is in excess and that includes maybe the cost of some off-campus housing that's not on their student account. And the most efficient way for the student to receive that money back is by electronic refund. We call that e-refunds. And only the student can set up an e-refund profile, and that's basically a bank account where we can put those funds. An e-refund profile can be any United States savings or checking account, and it can be the parent's account. You can work with your student on which account you want that credit balance to go to. If a Parent Plus loan generates the credit balance, a paper check will be mailed to the parent borrower. There is an option to keep a credit on the account to pay for the next semester's charges, and that form can be found on our business office webpage. That's stthomas.edu/businessoffice. The next slide discusses past due accounts. For fall, the first payment due date is September 19th. If you happen to miss that payment date, This puts the student account in a past due status. A registration hold and a transcript hold will be put on the student account to prevent them from registering or seeing their transcript. But you can go the very next day, you can pay online, the system updates nightly, and those holds will be released. If you are ever concerned about the account becoming past due, please reach out to the business office and financial aid office, and we can work with you on your concern. The last slide discusses the tuition refund program. The cost of an undergraduate education is a significant investment. Students that are hurt or become seriously ill must withdraw from all of their classes due to these medical reasons stand to lose thousands of dollars. While the University of St. Thomas does offer a generous refund schedule, it is most effective when withdrawal occurs early in the term. Consequently, the university would like to let you know that there is an optional insurance plan that provides coverage options for tuition, academic fees, housing, and board when a student must withdraw from all of their classes due to a covered medical or mental health condition. This insurance plan is administered by GradGuard Tuition Protection. Enrollment is completely optional and it is done by semester. You can sign up online through the billing site, and that is another reason why it's important to become an authorized user, so you also have access to see that or to sign up if needed. The cost. Families can choose their coverage limit. Coverage is 1.25% of the coverage purchase. So for instance, for $10,000 coverage, it would be $125. And if you need more details, you may contact GradGuard, which is their contact information is on our business office webpage as well. So in summary, the 5 important points that I wanted to say about the business office. There are 2 payment options. You can pay by the first payment due date, which is September 19th, or you can pay over the course of the semester. Payment due dates are always on the 19th of each month. You may pay online, in person, or mail a check. And it is important to become an authorized user so you have access to the billing system. And lastly, to have credit balances refund efficiently, please have the student set up an e-refund account. Thank you.
Okay. Again, my name is Steve Griffin. I take care of the campus stores and campus mail. I'm just going to go through a little bit on how your students can get their course materials and also save some money. We make it very simple for them to get their materials. Once they get registered for their classes, they can go to our website. And you can do a search on Google to find that, or it's right here on this page. But you can also, you go there and you could put in a class. It tells you what books you need, if they're available to be rented, digital, new or used. We also have a thing called Digital Direct. I'll kind of go through a little bit of those. Renting is right now by far the most popular. We probably rent about 60% of our books are rentable. And most students, if they're rentable, they buy those. Savings for rental books kind of range from 10% to up to about 60% off. So you can get some really good deals on those. And those books, we allow students to use the books. They can write in them, they can highlight in them. As long as they return them to us without water damage or dog ate the cover off it or pages, that kind of stuff, we're pretty much take the book back. If the students don't return the books, there is a small fee involved for that. But we give them plenty of reminders. I think usually we give them up to 9 reminders at the end of the semester to return their books back to us so we can get them back in the store. Another growing one is digital, especially during these times that we're in right now. A lot of people I know for high schools went to digital. And we do have a large selection of course material that is digital. And more students are doing that and picking those up. Digital is very simple for us. Again, if you go to our website and you select digital and you're paying by credit card, what you do then is you'll download it to your computer that you're at, and you'll be able to use that book. And you can choose many different options. You could choose a 3-month option on most books, 180-day option, or a lifetime option on most of those books. So it's a very good way to do and keep up the books, and also saves a lot of money on books. Another one that the university's been really excited about and really help save students money and make it easier for books, a thing called Digital Direct. What that is that we have a large number of courses on campus that have the material and it's embedded in their Canvas site, which our students become very, very familiar with Canvas and how it works. But the books there can be anywhere from 25 to 45% off the price, and the students don't need to come to the store. It's there the first day of classes, and they get billed a couple weeks after the semester starts. That is an optional, I mean, they can opt out if they want to, if they find something different, but most students I've talked to that have opted out try to opt back in because of the prices. And also too, that's where the professor puts the homework, puts the test, notes, everything goes in that one spot for them. So it makes it very simple for them to get their material and not have to worry about the lines in the bookstore. One of the ways you can get books, we do have, you order them online, it gives you options. You can have them FedEx to you, that's the most expensive option. You can have pickup in store, and this semester we will be having our curbside pickup also. Or if you want to, you can come to the store and buy the books also. The books will be available it'll be in store to shop or they'll do online August 5th. We should be opening up the store somewhere around that date also, the actual campus bookstore, but they'll be available to start buying around the beginning of August is when you'll be able to start purchasing those books at that time. We do extensive price searching for books. We do compare our whole inventory to lots of online books to try to keep competitive on all book prices. So we do keep that also. And also too, one thing nice about ours is if you have your child buys the books and for some reason the professor changes their mind about the books or they have the different drop the class, we make returning those books very, very simple back to the store. They get their money back however they purchase for them too. So next slide. Couple things, kind of fun. Starting out there with you guys there, we are going to offer a free semester of books. Very simple to register for that. You just need to go to our Facebook page, and then you put in your student's name with the date you look at, whatever date you got there looking at there, and then we will be picking a winner early August for the Facebook. So somebody hopefully out there can win a free semester of books. One thing we're doing this year too, because we're highly encouraging people to buy the books online and not come into the store for many different reasons. Obviously, the biggest reason is we need to keep our social distancing, and we make sure that. So we are offering a 5% off your total book purchase if you buy them online. We are trying to get people to get the books that way, so you don't have to come in the store and wait in long lines. And all those, you do get good selection when we select the books. Usually, when you order books, order them early. You do get all the used books go first if that's what you're looking for. So it's a great way to hopefully offer to get books online and not have to come into the store and wait in those lines on those first few days of classes, those things. We will also have on our website, it's not up there yet, but it will be up there here in a couple weeks, that you can choose store pickup or curbside pickup, whichever you prefer. And we'll have all the details for you also at that time. On the next slide, you'll see that I also have there should be one. There should be one on the mail. But anyways, I'm in charge of the mailroom, and so one thing about for the mailroom is that we do have you can pick things up at the store, at the campus store. The mailroom is part of the campus store, and if you do have address your students, you just put the student's name with middle initial, and you also put the university's address. We do not have mailboxes at the University of St. Thomas. But we do have an ordering system. When something arrives, your student will receive an email saying that you have an order to pick up in the campus mail. Please come down. They check their ID and they can pick their stuff up that way too. So, otherwise than that, I think we are on to you. Back to you, Linda.
Great, thank you, Steve. And I'm excited to see a lot of great questions are coming in through our Q&A. And before I delve into those, I'm going to pick one question that came in from a parent who pre-registered. And that question was asking about how you use an educational savings account to pay a student's bill. So for parents who may have an educational savings account. So I'm going to field that one to Nancy. Nancy, you're muted. We're going to keep catching Nancy on that. Thank you, Nancy.
That is a common question. So as a parent or whoever owns it, they can contact their 529 plan, whoever it is with. You would have to give them our address. Please list the student's name and student ID number, which is a 9-digit number which begins with 1. You should put that in a safe place and refer to it. And then that check can be mailed directly to the business office. It will be posted directly to the student account.
Thank you, Nancy. And on the business office page, is there information about how to use a 529? Is that information? Just curious if that's anything they'd be able to find on the web page.
I don't recall right now. I don't recall seeing that. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It might be
That's all
there.
right.
I'll make sure it is.
Thank you, Nancy. So I'm going to plug into some of the questions that have been coming in. And I'm going to start with, this question is related to activity and technology fees. It says, on my direct costs, I just lost the question. On my direct costs, does the activity technology facility fee include books? So we'll let Nancy answer that.
No, it does not. Books are separate. You either buy them in the bookstore, online, or all the other ways that Steve has explained. The technology fee is the use of the email, the printers around campus, PowerPoint, Excel, that sort of thing. Facilities fee is for the facilities at the university, and capital, oh, I shouldn't say capital improvements, repair and maintenance of campus facilities.
Thanks, Nancy. And Neil, this question will be for you. The question is stated, please confirm that if a student was awarded work study hours through FAFSA, does the student still need to apply for a job that will be used as work study? So and then the question also is placement in a job guaranteed?
So that's a good question. So if your student was awarded work study, whether through the FAFSA, whether it's federal or state work study, that does not guarantee them a job on campus. They do still need to apply for a position and then be hired by the department through which they're applying. So we don't place students in a job. They do need to seek out their own employment. One of the reasons for that is that if a student has an off-campus job that they would prefer to do, we want to make sure that they're able to do that. The only thing that happens there is that they just wouldn't earn their work study funds, but then they'd be earning funds through their off-campus employment. So that's one of the reasons we do so. We don't want to make a student work any specific job on campus. We want to give them the opportunities to do so. Some jobs require federal or state work study funds, but most jobs are open for all students. So again, I can't say that we don't guarantee work for students. I do know that for example, dining services last year was operating at a capacity where they needed additional students throughout the entire year and had trouble finding enough students that wanted to work. So in that sense, there's generally more job openings than students that are actively looking. That said, if your student's very particular about what they want to do as far as employment on campus, they might have a little bit tougher time than someone that's going to be a little bit more open-minded.
Thank you, Neil. And Neil, can you add on where students go to look for positions on campus?
Sure. So I think the easiest way to get there is if you go to our main website, stthomas.edu, and then you add /jobs at the end. You'll see a link on that page for student employment opportunities. And within that, that'll take you to a page where you can put in keywords to search for specific jobs like library, mailroom, or campus stores, things like that. Or you can just click search and then it'll post all the openings available at the time. I normally suggest mid to late July, early August is a good time for your students to start searching and applying. Students can apply directly from that website, so they can create their own online resume and then use that to apply for the jobs they're interested in.
Thank you, Neil. And this question, Nancy, I'm going to send to you. And the question is, if we start a monthly payment, but then we are able to pay in full, can we pay off our bill early to reduce an interest charge?
Absolutely, yes. At a minimum each month, you must pay that minimum payment due that's listed on the billing statement, so your account stays out of past due status, but you can always pay off the entire bill at any time, and that would reduce your finance charges.
And this next one will be for you too, Nancy, and I imagine this is a question that a lot of people have. It's related to subsidized versus unsubsidized loans. So the question, the person states that their son received 2 federal loans. One is subsidized, one is unsubsidized. Is there paperwork we need to fill out, or is it automatic when classes start? So maybe just talking a little bit about the difference between those and what parents and students should know.
Yeah, actually, Nancy, if you want, I can jump in here.
Yes.
Great.
Just as it's business office and financial aid office both work on one end or another with federal loans. But I can kind of help talk about the differences between the two on the application. And so the application for federal student loans is the FAFSA form itself. So again, many, if not most of you have probably completed that already. For students that have been offered federal loans, the first step to accepting those is, or to get the ball rolling on the process, is to accept those on our Murphy Online system. So in the instructions you receive with the financial aid award, it gives instructions on that. We've also sent out some reminders on how to do that. We also have, if you go to stthomas.edu/awarded, that has a nice helpful checklist that you can go through that talks about accepting federal loans, and also gives a lot of good information about other things your students should be looking to do, many of those that we talked about tonight. But you'll want to accept those on Murphy Online. Students can also, if they choose not to borrow loans, can decline those loans also on Murphy Online. And then once a student does accept their federal loans, we will then send the next steps on the, I'm going to use quotes, paperwork, because it's all done online these days, but the next paperwork steps that your students will do. Those 2 steps are called the Federal Entrance Counseling and the Federal Master Promissory Note, or MPN for short. So entrance counseling is about a 30 to 40 minute long course that your student reads through that teaches them what it means to borrow the loans, what repayment options are, things along those lines. And then the Master Promissory Note is the loan agreement stating that they understand they're borrowing a loan, they understand that it's going to be needed to be repaid after college. So those are going to be the next steps, but once those are done, then the loans will pay to the student's account. We normally have those dispersed to the student's account. It'll be in 50-50 disbursements, and then they normally come in about a day or 2 before the bill is due. So if the bill is due on September 19th, they'll normally come in around the 17th or the 18th and pay to your student's account. Nancy showed a slide earlier where you saw a copy of the bill or a typical bill that a student might receive. You'll see those listed as pending aid when you receive that billing statement. That's because the federal loans, again, will pay onto the account just before the bill is due. We do that because we want to, oh, thanks, Josh. We do that because we want to reduce any potential interest that will be accruing on your student's loan. So part of the question was, what is the difference between a subsidized and an unsubsidized loan? The only difference between the two is that the subsidized, that has no interest while this student is in school. And then the unsubsidized does accrue interest while the student's in school, and it starts accruing that interest once it's paid to your student's account. So again, that's the reason why we wait until right before the bill is due to have that pay. So otherwise, the interest rate is the same. They have the same repayment options after school. Students have repayment will start on these student loans 6 months after your student graduates, or if they leave school for any other reason.
Thank you, Neil. And Nancy, this is a billing related question, and a parent is asking for clarification. Did you say all students are automatically set up on a monthly payment plan? So is that monthly payment plan automatically set up, or do people need to request that?
No, they're automatically set up. Can Can you hear me again?
Yes.
When a student registers, there might be a pop-up box that's just goes through a payment agreement saying, yes, you are responsible for paying this balance off. The student will accept it, then they're able to register. That in essence is the payment plan saying you can either pay it upfront or monthly. There's no additional paperwork that the student or the parent needs to sign up for in order to pay throughout the semester or to pay it all off by September 19th.
Great. And Steve, this one will be for you. It's related to purchasing computers. And this person is wondering if St. Thomas offers any discounts for students purchasing computers. Is there a type of computer that works better for any of the digital books? Or are all the do all the digital books work on all types of computers?
Simple question, answer is yes. The digital books or digital work on any computer you have out there. If it doesn't work, we have enough tech people that can make it work for the computers. There is no really discounts anymore on computers. We don't get any better discount than Apple or some of the Mac or the regular PCs out there. I think Apple gives a 10% educational one. I think also too, like Dell and some other places give a 10% if you buy there, and there's no way we can do better than that. So any of the computers will work, and then the discounts are, we don't give any additional discounts.
Okay, thank you, Steve. This question, I think I'll go to Neil, but Nancy, you jump in if you want to. It's about outside scholarships. And the question is, do outside scholarships get applied to the total year tuition cost or just fall semester? Would the scholarships lower all of the monthly payments or just the fall? So how do outside scholarships work?
Sure. So as far as outside scholarships go, unless we're told otherwise, when we receive those funds in, we will apply an outside scholarship entirely to fall semester. Again, unless instructed otherwise, if a student does want that outside scholarship to be split between fall and spring semester, we can do that for you, but we do need you to request that to our office. Or the other way that we'll do that is if the scholarship granting organization requests that we split that between the two semesters, we'll do that based on their request as well. But the default would be that we apply it all to, fall semester. And Nancy, I don't know if you want to answer the question about payments after that is applied.
Well, first of all, I think it's a great question. And the important thing is, if you have an outside scholarship, please send it directly to the financial aid office.
Yes.
They need to process it first. They then send it to business office, who applies it to the student account. Yes, it will decrease your monthly payment, but only say it was accepted September 1st, it would decrease your first September minimum amount, the amount. Each billing cycle, our system looks at what is due and then divides it by, if there's 3 more months to pay, it divides it. So you're never going to pay the exact same amount each month. There are finance charges in there, but if there's some other payments or any charges added to it, our billing system recalculates that each month. So then you see what your minimum payment due is.
And Nancy, I think you covered this in your presentation, but if a student does have scholarships that are in excess of tuition, will the student get that money put into their account? How will that work?
Yes. Have them set up an e-refund profile account to say which bank account it can be refunded. I process refunds 3 times a week. Paper checks, we do that, but it's minimal and they're not as frequent. So if you want to be refunded quickly, setting up an e-refund profile is the best way to do that. And they do it on Murphy Online and then through the e-bill and e-pay system. And then you click on the e-refund profile and it just kind of walks through your bank account that you want to set up.
Great. And Nancy, we have someone asking, can you give the bullet points on how to set up authorized user? Again, just reinforce that.
Absolutely. We have that. So the student would go to Murphy Online. They'd click on, I'm not sure if we have that. they would click on the personal information tab, and then click on the e-bill and e-pay system. They would end up here. Off to the right, there's something circled, and it's authorized users. And they click on that, and that's where they enter the email address and the name of the person that they want to be an authorized user.
Great.
So it's through Murphy Online, and then the e-bill, e-pay system, and then you click on authorized users.
Thank you. And this is an interesting question, and I would imagine this might be on a lot of parents' minds also. The question is, if we are going to fund college with a combination of college savings, unsubsidized federal loans, private loans also, is it better to spread out this combination evenly, or to use up college savings first and wait on the private loans till later years? That's a great question. So asking for some strategy advice there.
Yeah, I can at least start to try to help answer this question. So the first thing I always have to say to these questions is that we are not financial advisors or financial planners. So if you do have someone that you work with like that, I would suggest asking them that question for your own personal accounts. There's no one best way to do it, and we will have families that choose all different methods for how they plan to use savings and private loans and then paying also just monthly out of pocket, out of earnings. So there's no one best way to do it. My own personal thought is it makes sense that if you do have the savings early, that you can make payments on, that will delay the amount of time that you have a private loan that is accruing interest. So that's my thought, is that having a private loan for 3 years of interest as opposed to 4 years of interest is going to end up saving you funds. But it also depends on how much your education savings account is earning as well. So that's, again, why it's a good idea to kind of look at your specific situation, look at what an interest rate on a loan will be. But no, there's not one best way to do it. But my own personal thought would be, oftentimes it makes a lot of sense to use those savings up front so you can delay that interest that would be accruing on a private loan. The federal unsubsidized loan for this next year is I've been working in higher education for about 10 years, and this is the lowest interest rate I've seen on the unsubsidized loan and subsidized of the 2.75%. So it makes sense to me to look at that one as a very good option, especially for this year. The way that the federal loans work is that it's a fixed interest rate for that year that your student's borrowing it. But any year later, so sophomore year, junior year, if your student goes to borrow federal loans again, those are considered separate loans and would have different interest rates likely. So it depends on some different factors, but right now that the federal loan interest rates are pretty low, especially historically. So those are a good opportunity to take. Again, it's something that is in your student's name only and does not require a cosigner, which can be an added benefit too.
And Neil, this is an addition to the loan question.
Mm-hmm.
For a PLUS loan or a private loan, do those loans go directly to the parents or directly to the University of St. Thomas?
Yeah, good question. So for both, or all types of loans that we've talked about today, so the federal student, the subsidized and unsubsidized, federal Parent Plus loan, and private education loans, those will all be sent directly to the university, and then we will apply it to your student's accounts. For the Plus loan, the Parent Plus loan, and then the private education loans, you have the choice to request one semester at a time or a full school year at a time. My suggestion is normally to request the full school year. When you do that, it's just evenly split between fall and spring semester. Spring semester portion doesn't start accruing interest until it actually pays your account in February. So my suggestion is to do that because most students' costs don't vary significantly fall to spring semester. So that can let you do one application at the beginning of the year and kind of get that done and not have to remember come, January, February, oh, I need to do another private loan application. So again, the loan funds will be sent directly to St. Thomas. If you decide to go another route, like you decide to take out a home equity loan or a personal line of credit, saying your own name as opposed to in your student's name with a cosigner, that would be a situation where you'd have to send those funds, you'd have to make a payment to St. Thomas, whether it's through the e-bill and e-payments site or through a check. That would be a situation where you'd have to do that. But if you're requesting a specific private student loan, they will send the funds directly to St. Thomas.
Neil, thank you. And I'm going to line up with one more for you, Neil. Can you talk about how students begin the financial aid counseling process?
Sure. So as far as any time that you or your student might have a question about financial aid, whether it's loans, scholarships, filling out the FAFSA, we're available in our office. I mentioned earlier in the presentation that every student does have an assigned financial aid counselor in our office. It's an alphabetical system. So we'd be able to, if you haven't heard from one of us before, we're the ones that are emailing you and sending letters to you. But if you haven't heard from us before, you can reach out to our office and we'll get you connected with the right person. So we're available for any counseling like that. For applying for a student loan, for an additional private student loan or the Parent Plus loan, I suggest going to, again, stthomas.edu and then adding /other loans. I believe this recording will be available later in the future. My slide on that did include that web address. So it's just doing that. We have information about both the Parent Plus loan there and then also private education loans, including a list of common lenders that you can work with. As far as the additional steps that I talked about for the student subsidized or unsubsidized loans, that is done at a website called studentaid.gov, but we also have a lot of helpful information just on our website to get you to the right place. And again, if your student has already accepted their loans, I believe actually next week, they'll be getting an email communication from their financial aid counselor explaining those next steps on doing that entrance counseling and master promissory note.
Thank you. And I am watching our time, so I'm going to just do 2 more questions here to make sure we're honoring everybody's time this evening. And Nancy, this is one that I imagine would help out quite a few people. The question is, is it possible to set up a direct monthly payment from our bank account on the 19th of each month?
You can make one payment set up in advance. So for instance, the e-bill comes August 24th. You can go into the billing system and set up a payment for any time in the future, but you can't do it for more than one time, like for the whole semester. So when the next e-bill comes on September 24th, you can set up a payment for the future for that one, and generally it should be by November or October 19th.
Great, thanks, Nancy. And Nancy, can you take a moment, this will be our last question, but to talk about tuition and how that's charged. Does it depend on the number of credits taken? Talk about how we apply our tuition rate.
Sure. All students are charged a flat fee. If you're a full-time student, that's from 12 credits to 18 credits. If a student is taking fewer than that, it is by credit hour. And some business classes might be a little bit more expensive per credit hour. So all of that is charged up front, one charge and one lump sum fee for the tuition at the beginning of the semester. So in August, you will see that dollar amount. The required fees are a separate line item: technology, health, activity fee. I guess that was it. Does that answer the question?
Great, I think so. Yep, thanks, Nancy. And I do want to recognize a few questions have come in asking about when St. Thomas might make a final decision about being in person or online this fall. And anyone's welcome to add to this, but I will let you know that right now, the university continues to plan for an in-person fall semester, welcoming students back to campus with an element of combined in-person classes and online. So there will be a virtual and in-person component to courses this fall. Our students the residence halls will be open. Everything that we are planning for is with guidance from the Minnesota Department of Health. We actually had them out on campus on Monday last week, which was great to have them actually walk our campus and give us some insights from our MDH experts. So at this point, as things are moving, we are at a point of we plan to welcome our students in person to campus this fall. So if there were a change to that, we would communicate that out absolutely as soon as possible. And a change would be very much dependent on guidance from the Center for Disease Control and the Minnesota Department of Health and whatever might be happening locally related to COVID-19. So please know that we certainly know that that is on the minds of our incoming students, of our returning students. It's certainly on the minds of parents. Again, I'm sending one back out to college this fall also, and it's on our minds in our house also. So if there were to be a change, we would communicate that as soon as the university made a decision on that. All right. So I hope that's helpful. I do want to recognize that that's a really real topic out there for everyone. And with that, I want to make sure you all know that this webinar will be posted, as Neil mentioned, on the family orientation page. So you can return to it if you would like to return to it for any reason. Our past webinar on registration is also posted there. And you'll see listed the upcoming webinars for the summer. We have several more opportunities for you to engage with us. In just a moment, Josh will put up a slide that has the contact information for the offices for our presenters this evening. And we really appreciate Neil, Nancy, and Steve for taking time to be with us tonight. Parents, thank you for taking time to tune in with us. Please reach out with any questions that we may not have gotten to this evening. We welcome them, and we certainly want to answer anything that might still be on your mind. So we'll leave this contact slide up, and you'll probably see our panelists start to close their video, so you won't see their faces anymore. So thank you again, and I hope everybody has a really wonderful evening. Thank you.